Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes. This is The Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome inside the Blackwood Broadcasting Studios at an undisclosed Institute of Higher Learning. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Thanks for being part of the program today. High above the seas lies the Geeta Land, one that thrives on epiphanies and work ethic and woodshedding. It is a land found by some, but only then do you become an innovator. A continual seeker, continual expander of sound and mind. Polyrhythms, with Ron McClure's acoustic bass locking the groove of my guest's original quartet. My guest is part of Geeta Land, which started in Memphis, right in the middle of racial strife, which he never understood, because he came from the same school of leadership as Harold Maburn, Frank Strozier, and Booker Little. In essence, my guest is one of the forefathers of blending all musics. He has constantly worked on a balance between survival and spiritualism, performing music from another world, a moon man with big imprints on younger cats like Blackbyrd, McKnight, and Sonship Woody Theus, who strove to survive playing street music in a general downturn within urban metropolises, which fostered Flowers Monterey. My guest headline shows at the Fillmore or Avalon Ballroom, sharing bills with psychedelic honky-tonk bar bands in Malo, which featured Hadley Calaman. The natural inclination of the mind is to move towards a place of greater happiness. In this host's mind, enlightenment comes from how you react to adversity. Having both feet on the ground with Wolfgang Meltz and all the studio cats, and still performing at the Musical Instrument Museum with Zakir Hussain. Charles Lloyd, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake.
Charles, I wanted to ask you, what was in... you are of mixed descent, many different races, and I'm trying to figure out the kind of the people that immigrated to Memphis at the time, because I cannot believe the pedigree of musicians, Strozier, Maburn, Booker Little, yourself. Where did your folks emigrate from?
Well, you didn't mention Phineas Newborn, who was our J.S. Bach and the father of many of us. And let's see, Jimmy Lunsford earlier. And how to say that in this lifetime, I've just been a music maker, and I always break out into song. I don't understand the world and how we are still throwing rocks at each other for thousands of years. So for me, I'm a sound seeker, and I try to bring something to humanity through that, and it's my service to the Creator that continues to move me forward with that mission. As for that question, how my folks got there, well, you want to speak about Sally Sunflower White Cloud or Hagar, or how far back do you want to go?
Well, I was just like, because when I talked to
my grandmother's great-grandmother said that we came across the Bering Straits, so some of that's in there. My great-grandmother, Sally Sunflower White Cloud, refused to walk on the Trail of Tears, and I have her songs, and and then on my father's side, slavery and all of that kind of nonsense that went on and does go on, and it's a condition of exploitation and such. So for me, I'm found in the music, and somehow the condition of the world, it's confess, I just have this musical offering, and so I don't know what to say to you about genealogy and all of that. It is so that I mixed. My great-grandfather on another side was Irish, and then, however, when he got old, he said he wanted to go live with his daughter, who was considered black. So, and that was in Mississippi, and my great-great-grandmother Hagar was taken from her home in the south of Mississippi, northern Mississippi, at 10, and taken up to Bolivar, Tennessee, and sold into slavery. And so that stuff is painful and difficult. I made a recording, Hagar song, with my colleague Jason Moran some recent time, and just wanting to give some tenderness and appreciation to Hagar for all she went through. And so, but this is our indigenous art form. I've traveled around the world, and people seem to relate to music. It's a universal language. It's something that continues to inform me and keeps me younger than springtime, and I'm still a lover of music and sound, and so I'm found in that.
I just was thinking about the leadership tendencies of the class that you came out of. I mean, Harold Maburn became a leader on Prestige yourself, Frank Strozier, Booker Little, like you said.
George Coleman, many of us, but yeah, well, that.
What I'm again, let me just answer
Sure.
ask the question, because what I'm trying to get at is the idea that there were these enclaves, there were these French Creole families from Louisiana that was Ndugu Chancellor was part of, and the Crusaders. It was a fearlessness. It was a quality of understanding, maybe not necessarily everything of where your family came from, but it was the idea that you were going to express a visceral quality of the indigenous music through your music. And that to me is striking, and that doesn't exist today for a myriad of reasons. But to say that all those guys came out of your class in high school is mind-blowing to someone like me who was born in 1978.
Well, that's true, but you see, it's sort of like they asked that boy over in England, Prince Charles, why are you like you are? And he said, I never knew anything different, I mean, we came up fearless, and that's the way it was. We were how to say, sound seekers, and all around us. Of course, you mentioned New Orleans and all of that. You see, Memphis is on that river there. And as is New Orleans, and that's a river culture, and that music goes up and down that river, and Louis Armstrong and all of that, and I was mentioning Jimmy Lunsford, but who also taught at my high school generations before me. But what you're saying is quite true, and I appreciate the insight that you're bringing forth. I'm just saying that for me to know anything different is not my way of functioning.
Well, I love your answer. It's absolutely perfect. So we can move on. The thing that's great is that you had these older cats, guys that are still, my God, they're still B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland. You started playing with him, and in a lot of live settings when you were relatively young. And for younger musicians out there with limited venues today, less access to develop individual sound and comfortability amongst the masses, how much do you account for being able to hone your individual sound on your horn and flute by being able to play with some of these bluesmen in live venues?
Oh, definitely, very important. That's music of the soil, and it's the backbone of all of this stuff. And when you talk about rock and roll or any of that stuff came out of those deep people you're mentioning, like Bobby Blue Bland and Howlin' Wolf, whom I played with, and so that was very rich, and there was a beauty of being able to play every night. But that was what I was raised up under, and I just was drunk from it and informed from it, and it still informs me, and the blues is still in me. I'm a blues man trying to sing a spiritual song, I suppose we could say, because it does have to go higher. I mean, we're here to evolve. I mean, life is school, and so I was thrown into one of the deepest, richest schools, this vein of talent and creativity that you're mentioning, which was Memphis. In my day, we did intuitively know that as young people, we didn't have any peers because we could feel it. So there's something that's in the tradition that was. I thought Memphis was a strange place to be born, but when I look back upon it, it was a very rich place to be. And so I got my start there, and when I came to California and to go to college at USC, Southern Cal, that was another rich vein. There was Ornette Coleman and Billy Higgins and Don Cherry, and Gerald Wilson had a big band, and Eric Dolphy. And so there were all these great music makers. But you see, what you have to understand, Jake, to cut to the chase, is that those of us who are drunk with sound, we don't have any alternative. It's something that permeates your being, and you live all of your life with the richness and the blessing of that, and you like to share that with sisters and brothers around the world, and that's been the situation.
Talking with Charles Lloyd here. This is going to go back a little bit, but when was the first time you remember playing in a polyrhythmic setting in your life, meaning with Indian instruments?
Well, probably during my early California days. I was exposed to the music of, in college, Ravi Shankar and Ali Akbar Khan. And I was very moved by, they were improvising also, and I could feel that and sense that. And although I was going to college during the day and they were fostering 300 years of Europe, which I love also. I love J.S. Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and all of that, and even the modern cats like Bartók, and whom I made a pilgrimage to. So I was moved by Europe, but there was something about, I noticed that the school didn't know anything about Duke Ellington or Louis Armstrong or Lester Young or Billie Holiday or Charlie Parker, and they had no interest in that. So that was kind of a wake-up call to me that I'm in a strange arena here, And then when I heard Ravi Shankar and all of that timelessness of Mother India coming through, it led me on to start playing with some of those musicians. And Ali Akbar Khan's sons, he had two sons, Ashish and Pranesh. They played with me in the 70s, early 70s. So
Pranesh was on Dolak on the Geeta album.
Yeah, he played tablas and various other percussion instruments, and Ashish played the sarod, on the Geeta record. Geeta is short for Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I'm obsessed with those records, Charles. We haven't. We'll get into those, but I mentioned it because I find it refreshing. Well, how did the whole thing come about with Zakir?
Well, that's interesting. Zakir, he knew of that association with Pranesh and Ashish, but he later told me when we were playing in the Sangam group that he knew those guys were coming down from the Bay Area to the L.A. area to record with me, and he felt that he should have been there. But we didn't know each other in those days. So, so it's like that, the timing of our coming together and meeting. As I told you years ago, I would interview with you when I was in your town, but I'm coming to your town, and I'm looking forward to that. And so I appreciate that you stayed on it, and you care about the music. I can tell that deeply. And I hope there are people in your area that are touched by the music. Actually, there are some. I have some musical fans who reach out to me that they're excited that I'm coming there. And you should share with your listeners and seekers of inner life that something special will be coming. I don't know if I answered your question so much about Zakir, but
no. What I'm saying,
Master Higgins sent Zakir and Eric Harlan to me, and this group started 10 years ago as a homage to Master Higgins. That's Master Billy Higgins, whom I played with since I was 18 and he was 19. So there is this tradition, and there is this tree and seed, and you mentioned Sunship, who came to me when he was about 12 or 14, and I told him to come back a little later, and he did, and so he played with me for some years too.
Actually, I am a lover of music, but I actually am more enthralled with the. You said we traded some messages on Facebook, but I'm more enthralled with the person themselves, Charles, the authenticity of your generation. I mean, George Coleman in New York told me to get out of his face. In my mind, it's the idea of being able to feel the visceral qualities, the humanity of it. It's not, it goes beyond the music. And so for me, I feel like you're drunk with music, and you're also drunk with the responsibility of enlightening those who are willing to seek as well, which is one reason I sought you out so much. Here's the question though. With Dreamweaver, a massive album and a big hit, 6 tours in Europe in 2 years. The Europeans essentially, they supported that album. Was it received well outside of the Bay Area in the States, or were you just going to Europe because the liner notes were written by a lot of Europeans?
Well, they had wars over there, and they had experienced suffering, and they heard the deep music, and they were drawn to it, and we had invitations to come there. You have to understand that invitations for real quality and deep music, they don't come so often. So in those days especially, and we were playing mostly bars and taverns in the States, and we would go to Europe and play major concert halls with Steinway grand pianos and such, and we'd be treated royally, and that's not too hard to take because you can focus on what it is that you're there for. In the beer taverns, that's set up for something else, and so it wasn't so enthralling for me to be a part of that milieu. So when Europe's invitations came, the elders had always told me that our musicians were treated in a first-class manner over there and treated with respect and veneration. So, and we found that to be so. And however, speaking of Dreamweaver, we had success in the major cities with it, you know, West Coast and New York and Chicago and Boston, places like that. So we did play around, you know, the States.
You said something really interesting before, growing up with Maburn and Coleman. You guys did not have peers. And, you know...
Well, that was intuition.
But
it proved to be true, because when I went to USC, they didn't have a hint of what we were doing. But I had to seek out the community of Billy Higgins and Eric Dolphy and Harold Land and all those guys to find... you know, the veins. You see, if you're a seeker, it's not put up on television or on billboards. You have to dig deep to find the truth and wonder of what this is about. And this is a music of freedom and wonder.
You know, that to me, paint the picture. I was going to ask you, because it says somewhere that you played in, when you first moved out there, you were playing in smaller quartets with Bobby Hutcherson, but I know you must have met Bobby through Harold Land, and to me, those are the cats. I wouldn't call them unsung heroes. I just think that there's a vapid quality in today's society of having mentors like that who are able to take guys like Carmel Jones or Charles Lloyd, Billy Higgins was the same way, and get you into playing with quartets. These guys are forefathers, massive figures. And
well, in the case of Bobby Hutcherson, I don't mean to contradict you, but he played with me before he knew Harold Land.
Okay.
So Bobby is from Pasadena, and there was a coffee house over there called the Dragon Wick, and I used to play over there with Scott LaFaro and Billy Higgins and various musicians, Elmo Hope, different people. Anyway, and Bobby would come around, as well as a beautiful bassist, Albert Stinson, who played with us with Chico and Gabor. And so Bobby was a few years younger than me. I was still in college, but he had this talent. Herbie Lewis was over there. So those guys are from Pasadena, and they heard us play, and they got serious real quick, you know, because exposure is very important. I mean, you live in an area that's probably physically beautiful, but I can't remember the last time I played in your town. So it's kind of sad to say that you live in a beautiful metropolis that is short on this music. And so I'm thankful that the invitation came, because I've been hearing from some people who are quite excited that we're coming. And I hope you will inform those who don't know, because someone would say to me, I wish I'd known you were here, you know, that kind of thing after the fact. And I had that same experience. I would have people would come to, when I was in college, I remember Arthur Rubinstein, a great classical pianist, came to play at my university, and I missed him the first time, but I didn't miss him the second time he came to, so I had another chance. You know.
Well, speaking of Albert Stinson, let's listen to a track of music here. We'll come back and talk about it.
Sure.
For you?
Yes, it does. But my wife Dorothy just walked in and she said, well, "Does he have sun gum?" I guess she thought, you know, it's your interview, and you should let the people know what I'm coming with. And I appreciate you playing it. But she was perplexed as to what's going on. You seem to be in a how to say a historical bag, and I while I don't have problems with that being there, I'm someone who is always trying to go forward, and I'm coming with sun gum, and so we don't have much time here, and I wish you could share some of that with people.
We can do it. It just we got to paint the full picture of Charles Lloyd, because
well, but you can paint the full picture of him without him here. But when you've got him here and he's coming to play with sun gum, we should talk about that, because that's very important.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that that group was a tribute to Master Higgins, and we recorded 10 years ago in Santa Barbara. And I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Pardon me. I'm sorry there. I guess I'm coming with this. You know, I don't see how this works, because the history of it all is really probably important for folks to know. For me, what's important for me to know is that I can find some new notes, and I can find some new experiences from my life to share with the listener. But anyway, 10 years ago, Master Higgins died in 2001. We made a recording called Which Way is East here in my home, and he brought all of his musical instruments, and I had all of mine. And we went back over our history, and I was an alto player, and he remembered that of me, and he was excited when I played the alto. It was the first time I had played it in many years. And when he left, he ascended in May of 2001. I was in New York. He said on his deathbed that we have to keep working on this music, and so I said, well, you're going to come off this bed, and he's in the hospital in the intensive ward, and I said, play with me, and he said, no, I didn't say I'd be there, but I'll always be with you. And around 9/11 time, I was in New York to play at the Blue Note for a week, and he did something amazing, which I would, well, first of all, 9/11 happened, and so we didn't play for a week. We didn't start until Friday at the Blue Note. And the whole of New York, Greenwich Village, south of 14th Street was closed down. I mean, it's pretty eerie, no cars. It was very surreal, and people were kind of lost and looking for their loved ones and like that, and people were jumping out of those windows of those buildings and like that down at the World Trade Center. So what I'm trying to say is that we finally started playing on Friday night over there and at the Blue Note. And after we finished playing, they would have a jam band to play. And Eric Harlan was playing in that band. And when I came downstairs from my dressing room, I heard them playing. And instead of leaving the club, I sat and listened. And then I heard what Higgins was saying to me, that he would always be with me. So I could tell that Higgins had sent him from the other side, Eric. And then a little later, I heard my friend John McLaughlin was playing down at UCLA, and he wanted me to come down to hear Shakti. And I went down, and I hadn't heard Zakir in person. And when I heard Zakir, I knew that Higgins had sent him too. So that was why I formed this group, Sangam, and it's very. You touch on it all. Forgive me for being short with you about it, but I don't like to talk anymore. I just like to play the music. But what I'm trying to get at is that I didn't want this to go down without visiting, especially since my wife just stepped in here and said, why aren't you talking about Sangam? And I noticed that people want to interview me. They just only want to go over the past, and that's fine. But
yeah, no, but
them,
Charles,
for them, it's fine for them, but not for me.
No, and I respect it. Listen. You didn't be short with me at all. I was trying to lead into it with my question about the first time.
We don't have that much time, Jake. I mean, I don't know what to say to you, but someone said.
Okay, so here's the next question for you. Getting aside from the technical part of music, how do you discover new notes? How do you fuse your spiritual being with your technical proficiency so that you can find new notes?
It's your life story. It's not about the notes. It's about finding that one note that will answer all the notes. And I haven't found it yet, so I'm still on the search or on the quest. And I hear a sound in my mind's ear that I'm always moving towards. And as I mentioned to you in college, I'd heard Ravi Shankar and these people, and it had a kindredness with jazz. And when Zakir and Eric and I play, Eric and I are not trying to play ragas, and he's not trying to play jazz. We're singing our song, we're expressing our souls. The thing about technical proficiency and competence in that area is very important when learning music. At a certain point, you have to learn life, and when you can translate your life into that horn or that drum or whatever you're playing, then I think we begin to get onto something, and then we get met by the Creator, and we're taken higher. And so we live for those moments of freedom and wonder, and that's what transports me and continues to baffle me, that I can walk out on the stage nervous to play, and then within a few minutes the chasm is, we're on the other shore, and someone is trying to get me off the stage, and it's like no time has gone by at all. So it is about the now, and I just am really, really pregnant with the now, and I love it, and I love being an explorer. And so forgive my pain of going over my history, and so it alarms me that I appreciate you have to educate your audiences, but please do that, and then when you have me here, I hope that we can talk about what it is now and going forward.
Absolutely. As we move forward, I think one of the things that is missing within the musical construct are producers that fight for musicians. And I was hoping you could talk about how responsible George Avakian was to your ability for longevity.
Not a subject I want to speak on. he and I had grave disagreements, and in the beginning it seemed fine, but in the end he was a businessman who was taking care of his business.
Okay. Can you sing any songs from your Native American grandmother? Do they still sit with you today?
Yeah, they resonate with me. Yes, they do.
Could you talk about a couple, or maybe sing a couple?
No, I'm not able to do that on the phone. I find this medium. That's why I said to you I would speak to you when I was in your town, but that didn't happen for us. And I appreciate you. I think that the telephone is you won't hear the nuance of it, and I won't waste it on the wires of the phone. I just it's too sacred to me, and the fidelity won't come through. The humanity won't come through, and all these words. You see, the problem for me, Jake, is these words, they mean different things to different people, but the music goes direct. And when I'm there and when we play this music, it will touch the hearts of the people, and that's what I'm about.
Could you just tell me quickly, a lot of people talk about going to see Return to Forever in Tempe. You guys open for them. Can you share a story about Sonship Woody Theus? He closes my show every time with a myriad of drums and cymbals, if everything was rolling until your wife rolled in. So if you can just cap this interview with a story like that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying about Tempe and Return to Forever.
There are stories on the internet of people going to see your band in 1973 or 74, opening for Return to Forever, which was, of course, this, modern.
But I don't remember that.
But do you remember Blackbyrd, McKnight, and Celestial?
Of course, I remember Sunship. Of course, you keep taking me to the Fillmore, to some place in the 70s. It's 2021. I don't know what it is, but look, I don't know the phases of the moon. I just know that I love music, and I'm not able to help you with this. I'm not.
But you are a moon man.
Yeah, but it has not to do with. That had to do with. You keep taking me to the past. That was about. Don't destroy the planet, and don't just spy on people. That was about something that was bothering me at the time when I was blowing fuses in the 60s, as I told you. And now I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to grow whole, and I'm still here. And I'm sorry, I'm not competent.
I don't want you to apologize anymore.
You keep asking me these questions that, you know a lot about music. You've listened. You've heard a lot of music, and you know a lot about my music. But you won't come to the table with me. When you said George Cohen told you to get out of his face, what is it about you that bothers us musicians, us sensitives? I mean, we're drunk with music. We're not able to be. When I say don't apologize, well, I'm not a harsh person. This is. I don't want to be rude to anyone, but I find this questioning. You're just going to have to edit this down and use something that's about the music. I don't find that I'm able to be competent or coming forth with what it is that you want to direct here.
I've interviewed John Densmore. I haven't gotten to Ron Altbach or Mike Love yet, but I am. That's the point. Is that what I'm trying to search for here is the idea of the spiritualism intermeshed with the music, which was palpable in the early 70s. Now you can go to the Musical Instrument Museum, which I'm not sure if you've been to or not. Nice, yeah, nice venue, and it's intimate. But the purpose, or what you were trying to convey in the music, or what you're trying to convey now in the music, those new notes, I'm trying to make sure that bridges are built for the future, like my two daughters, so that they know where the history came from. I have no problem with, listen, I've interviewed everybody from Cosby to Charlie Daniels. I love Charles Lloyd. And I'm trying to go into the past so we can paint a picture for the future. And that's the whole idea here. And so if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. But I've interviewed over 300 cats, and it's about the people. And we were cooking.
Okay, let's just cut it to the chase. I'm not competent to have this discussion, and I'm sorry. that I'm not measuring up to your 300 cats. I'm just someone who's fragile and who's trying to sing a song. And I find that I was asked to give you a 10, 20-minute interview, and I'm in the midst of writing a suite of music that I've been commissioned to write, and I'm all drunk with that, and I'm coming over to play, and I want to be helpful, but it doesn't. Why did George Coleman ask you to get out of his face?
Just for the record, I had no idea we were on a time limit. I was never told that. So I apologize about that. I didn't know you were in rush. That's my interview.
Well, I'm just telling you, if someone informs me that I'm to interview with you for 20 minutes.
I never knew it was 20. I never. Yeah.
Well, okay. Look, I'm sorry. God bless and take care. I'm sorry I wasn't.
God bless you, brother.